The sun hung low in the sky, casting a soft golden hue over the garden. It was a picture-perfect scene for what was supposed to be the happiest day of Mia's life. The guests, dressed in their best attire, smiled and whispered in hushed tones, eager for the ceremony to begin. Mia, standing behind a large oak tree at the edge of the garden, clutched her bouquet tightly. Her heart raced, but not with the excitement she'd always dreamed of feeling on her wedding day. Instead, there was a tightness in her chest, a knot that had been there for weeks now. No matter how hard she tried to push it away, it was always there, lurking in the background, the knowledge that she was standing on the precipice of a truth she had buried deep within herself. The secret that, if unearthed, could destroy everything. Beside her, Scout, her loyal Labrador, sat with his back to her, watching the guests with his intelligent brown eyes. He had always been more than just a dog to Mia. He was her protector, her confidant, the one who knew her better than anyone. He had stood by her side through thick and thin, through heartbreak and moments of joy. But today, Scout seemed restless. Mia gently placed a hand on his head. "Hey, boy, it's almost time." Scout's response wasn't what she expected. He stiffened, his ears pricking up as he stared at the aisle ahead. His tail, usually wagging softly, now hung low, and he let out a quiet growl. The growl wasn't loud, but it was enough to catch Mia's attention. "Scout." Mia's voice was soft, but the unease in her chest grew. She couldn't help but notice that Scout wasn't his usual calm self. He stood abruptly, his movements sharp, almost frantic. He pulled at his leash with surprising strength, his eyes still fixed on the altar. It was as though he could sense something in the air that Mia couldn't see, or didn't want to see. "Mia, it's time," came the voice of the wedding planner from behind her, snapping her out of her thoughts. But before Mia could answer, Scout darted away from her side, breaking free from her grip entirely. "Scout, no." But it was too late. The dog was already running down the aisle with surprising speed, his paws thundering against the grass, heading directly for the altar. Guests turned in surprise, some gasping, others laughing, thinking Scout was simply excited. But the laughter quickly turned to confusion as the dog didn't stop at the altar. Instead, he veered sharply to the side, where the ground was slightly uneven and soft, and began to dig. The wedding guests looked on in disbelief as the dog dug furiously, throwing dirt in every direction. Mia stood frozen, her breath caught in her throat. This wasn't normal behavior for Scout. She knew him better than anyone. Something was wrong. Very wrong. "Scout, stop," Mia called, but the dog didn't listen. He dug faster, almost as if he had a mission. His paws worked tirelessly, the dirt flying in clumps. The guests exchanged nervous glances, unsure whether to laugh or be concerned. But Mia's heart was pounding now. She knew, deep down, that Scout wasn't acting out of excitement or playfulness. He had sensed something that even she wasn't ready to face. As Scout's digging continued, he uncovered something small and buried beneath the dirt. Mia's breath hitched as she recognized the object. It was a velvet box. The box wasn't large, but its presence was enough to stop everyone in their tracks. Mia's hands began to tremble as she rushed to Scout's side, bending down to grab the box from the dirt. She could barely catch her breath. Her mind raced, knowing exactly what was inside that box. It was the letter. The one she had written months ago. The letter she had buried out of fear. The moment Mia touched the box, her mind flashed back to the night she wrote it. She had been sitting in her bedroom, the moonlight streaming through the window. Her heart had ached as she wrote each word. She had loved Ethan deeply, but the memory of Daniel, her ex-boyfriend, still haunted her. She hadn't been able to let go of him, even though she had told herself over and over that she had. In that moment of doubt, Mia had written the letter. She poured out her feelings, confessing to herself the truth she hadn't wanted to acknowledge. She still loved Daniel in some way. And now, that truth had been buried, both physically and emotionally, in hopes of moving on with Ethan. She had buried it in the garden, thinking that the earth would hide it forever. But Scout had found it. Her hands shook as she slowly opened the box, pulling out the crumpled, weathered letter. She could already feel the eyes of the guests on her, their stares heavy with curiosity. Ethan, standing at the altar, had stopped moving entirely. His face was pale, his eyes wide with disbelief. The silence that hung in the air was suffocating. Mia could feel the weight of every eye on her, the world around her shrinking to just her and Ethan, the secret between them now fully exposed. The silence was broken by Ethan's voice, quiet but filled with pain. "Mia, what is this? What is going on?" Mia couldn't speak at first. The words caught in her throat as the realization hit her. Everything she had worked for, everything she had tried to build with Ethan, was now crumbling. She had kept this secret for so long, too afraid to admit it even to herself. And now Scout, her loyal dog, had unearthed it for everyone to see. With trembling hands, Mia stood up and faced Ethan. "It's my secret. It's mine." Her voice was barely a whisper, but the weight of her words hung heavy in the air. Ethan stepped forward, his expression a mixture of confusion and hurt. "What do you mean? What secret?" Mia's heart felt like it was being torn apart. "I never really let go of Daniel. I thought that I could move on, that I could love you the way you deserve to be loved, but I didn't. I still think about him, and I'm sorry. I buried it. I buried this truth because I thought it would just go away, but I was wrong." The guests were silent, their gazes fixed on Ethan, who seemed rooted to the spot. His face shifted between disbelief and heartbreak. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the distant rustle of the trees. Finally, Ethan looked at Mia, his eyes clouded with pain. "Mia, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you trust me enough to share this?" His voice broke, and Mia felt her chest tighten. "I didn't want to hurt you, Ethan," she whispered. "I was afraid of losing you. I thought if I buried the secret, it would make everything go away. But I was wrong. I was wrong to keep it from you." The weight of Mia's confession hung heavily between them. Ethan's face had grown pale, and his jaw clenched, as though he were trying to hold back tears. He looked at her as though seeing her for the first time, and Mia's heart ached with every passing second. "I can't do this," Ethan finally said, his voice cracking. "I don't know if I can forgive you for this, Mia." Mia nodded, tears streaming down her face. She hadn't expected forgiveness. She hadn't earned it. She simply needed to be honest with herself, even if that meant losing everything she had with Ethan. "I understand," she said softly, her voice breaking. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed to tell you the truth." The silence between them was deafening. Then, as Mia turned to leave, Scout pressed his body against her leg, offering the comfort he always did in times of distress. He had been with her through everything, and now, as her heart shattered, Scout remained her steadfast companion. She walked away from the altar, from the life she had almost built, and out of the garden, with Scout by her side. Mia sat on the steps of her porch later that night, looking at the velvet box in her hands. Scout lay at her feet, his head resting gently against her leg. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure: she had to heal. She had to let go of the past, of the guilt, and of the pain. As she looked down at Scout, she realized that she had one constant in her life, one unwavering source of love and loyalty. He had always known, even when she hadn't been ready to face the truth. He had been her protector, her guide, her hero. "I don't know what happens next, boy," Mia whispered, stroking his fur. "But whatever it is, we'll face it together." Scout's tail thumped softly against the porch, and Mia smiled through her tears. For the first time, she felt a sense of peace. It wasn't the end of her journey, it was just the beginning. And with Scout by her side, she knew she could face whatever came next.